A few months back, my older one was sick. Nothing serious, just a bad cold. And my mother-in-law stayed over for 2 nights straight, and I watched something I didn't expect. My son,
Oh,
who
it's
normally
okay,
only
my
wants
little
me or my
sweetie.
wife when he's
Mommy and
miserable,
Daddy are right.
kept reaching for her, calling for her by name in the middle of the night. I remember standing in the hallway thinking, where does that bond even come from? She doesn't live with us. She's not there every day. But in that moment, she was exactly who he needed. Turns out that's not random. Research says grandparents might be one of the reasons human babies survive and thrive at all. Not a bonus, part of the core team. Let me show you what's actually happening. Most parents treat grandparents like an extra, someone who spoils the kids on weekends and hands them back before bedtime. The research says the opposite. Anthropologists call it the grandmother hypothesis. Grandparents, especially grandmothers, were so critical to child survival throughout human history that it may have shaped how long women live past their reproductive years. Kids with involved grandparents survived more, grew stronger, developed better. This isn't a modern trend, it's ancient. Let's break down what that looks like for your baby's brain and body right now. Start with attachment. A lot of parents worry that if their baby gets close to a grandparent, it steals from the bond with mom or dad. Like there's a limited amount of love to go around. That's not how attachment works. Dr. John Bowlby, the psychiatrist behind modern attachment theory, described it as something children build in layers, not competition. A baby can have a primary attachment to their parents and a strong secondary attachment to a grandparent, and neither weakens the other. The more safe adults a baby learns to trust, the more their nervous system learns the world is safe. That's what I saw with my own son. Grandma isn't a replacement for my wife, but there's a specific kind of calm he gets around her. Different hands, different voice, different rhythm, and that variety is genuinely good for a developing brain. Parents tend to interact with babies in predictable patterns, feeding schedules, nap routines, the same games out of habit. Grandparents bring something else, old songs, different stories, a slower pace because they're not juggling a work notification while building a block tower. Oxford researcher Professor Anne Buchanan studied more than 1,500 children and found that those with high grandparent involvement showed fewer behavioral and emotional problems, and in some cases, stronger social skills than children with limited contact. The reason? Grandparents usually have more unstructured, unhurried time with a child. No agenda, no milestone chasing, just presence. And that turns out to be some of the richest developmental time there is. Here's a detail that surprised me when I dug into this. Not all grandparent involvement is measured the same in the research. Anthropologists have specifically looked at maternal grandmothers, the mother's mother, and the numbers are striking. A review covering 45 separate studies on kin and child survival found that when a maternal grandmother was present and involved, a grandchild's chances of survival increased by somewhere between 53 and 69%. Not a small bump, a massive one. Why the maternal side specifically? Researchers point to a few overlapping reasons. A maternal grandmother has direct biological certainty that the grandchild is hers. There's no ambiguity there, the way it historically could be on the paternal side. She also tends to live closer, visit more often, and get pulled into hands-on care earlier, especially right after birth. None of this means paternal grandparents don't matter. They absolutely do, and plenty of families run the other way. Paternal grandparents living closer, more involved day to day. But the maternal grandmother pattern shows up again and again across cultures, which tells you it's not random. It's likely built into how humans have raised children for most of our history. I think about this every time my mother-in-law shows up unannounced with food or just to hold the baby for an hour so my wife can shower. It never occurred to me that this exact behavior, a maternal grandmother stepping in during the hardest, most fragile stretch after a baby is born, might be one of the oldest survival patterns our species has. This next part doesn't get talked about enough, and it deserves its own moment. Grandparents don't just help with the baby directly, they protect something even more fragile in those early months, the mother's mental health. There's a growing body of research specifically on this. Supportive grandparents, especially grandmothers, act as a protective factor against postpartum depression and other perinatal mental health struggles. And it's not just emotional support in a vague sense. Grandmothers often provide concrete, practical help, advice on newborn care, support with breastfeeding, or simply taking over caregiving duties so an exhausted new mother can rest, eat, or process what she's going through. This matters enormously because a mother's mental health in those first months doesn't just affect her. It shapes the baby's earliest environment. A mom who's supported, rested, and less overwhelmed is more able to be emotionally present, more able to read her baby's cues, more able to bond without the fog of chronic exhaustion and anxiety sitting over everything. There's actual research tracing this exact chain reaction. Studies on grandparent involvement have found that it works partly by lowering a mother's parenting stress and strengthening the overall stability of the family, and both of those, independently, feed directly into how resilient the child becomes. So the chain looks something like this. A grandparent shows up, the mother's stress drops, the household feels steadier, and the child absorbs that steadiness. Grandma isn't just handing the baby back happy. She's changing the entire emotional climate the baby grows up in. My wife has said this to me directly more than once, that the difference between a week with her mom around and a week without is night and day, not just in how much sleep she gets, but in how she feels as a person. Less alone. Less like she's failing at something everyone else seems to find natural. And I've watched that translate directly into how calm and patient she is with our kids on those days. So when a grandparent shows up to support the mother, not just play with the baby but actually support the mother, that's not a side benefit. That's one of the most direct ways a grandparent shapes a baby's development, because a well-supported mother is the single biggest predictor of a secure, well-regulated baby. Almost everything I've mentioned so far leans heavily on grandmothers, and that's because most of the research does too. But grandfathers matter here in a distinct way that's easy to overlook. Researchers who study this specifically separate grandfather involvement into three parts: how much contact he has, how much he actually participates in activities with the child, and how committed he is to the role overall. And what shows up across dozens of studies is that grandfathers tend to contribute differently than grandmothers do. Less of the day-to-day nurturing, more of the active hands-on engagement, play, physical activity, teaching a skill, being a steady presence a child can push against and test boundaries with. That variety matters. A child who gets nurturing softness from one grandparent and playful active engagement from another is getting a wider range of relational experience than either alone could provide. It's not that one style is better, it's that the contrast itself builds something. A child learns that different people show love differently and that both are safe. I think about my own dad here. He's not the one who remembers nap schedules or worries about screen time, but he's the one who gets down on the floor and turns into an airplane the second he walks through the door. My kids light up differently around him than they do around their grandma. Same love, completely different flavor of it. And apparently, that difference is doing real developmental work I didn't fully appreciate until I looked into it. Here's the point most parents completely overlook. Babies co-regulate. Their nervous system takes cues from whoever is holding them. If you're stressed or rushed, your baby often feels it in your breathing, your grip, your pace. And when you're exhausted, which is most parents most of the time, that stress transfers whether you want it to or not. Grandparents generally aren't running on that same sleep-deprived nervous system. They've already survived the hardest years. So without even trying, they bring a settled calm into a room. That calm is contagious. It's one quiet reason a baby might stop crying faster in a grandparent's arms. Nervous system talking to nervous system. And grandparents don't just support the baby, they support the parents, and that reshapes the baby's whole environment. Developmental psychology has a concept called the family systems approach. A child's well-being can't be separated from the well-being of the adults raising them. A stressed, overwhelmed parent has a harder time being fully present, simply because they're running on empty. A grandparent who helps, watching the baby so you can shower and sleep, or just reminding you that you're doing fine, is protecting your capacity to parent well, and that protects your baby's environment. I didn't understand this until I lived it. When my younger one was a newborn, my mom flew in for 10 days. Those 10 days were the only stretch of that first year where my wife and I actually felt like functioning humans. She didn't do anything dramatic. She held the baby while we slept. She made food we didn't have to think about. Looking back, That turned two exhausted, frazzled parents into two rested, more patient ones. My baby felt the difference in how we showed up. One more piece: identity and belonging. Children build a sense of who they are partly through story, where they come from, who came before them. Grandparents usually carry that: traditions, small rituals, a specific way of saying goodnight, a recipe nobody wrote down. Research on family narrative has linked how much a child knows about their own family's story to higher resilience and stronger self-esteem later in childhood. Grandparents are usually the keepers of that story. I want to be honest here, because this channel is about real information. Not every family has grandparents who are close, available, or in a healthy relationship to lean on. Distance, family dynamics, loss, these are real, and if that's your situation, your baby isn't missing something irreplaceable. Secure attachment can form through any consistent, loving adult: an aunt, a close family friend, a godparent, anyone who shows up again and again. What matters developmentally isn't the title grandparent, it's a consistent, warm, secondary attachment figure. So if you're lucky enough to have grandparents involved, let them in. Not as babysitters, but as bonded adults quietly shaping your child's nervous system, sense of safety, and sense of identity every time they show up. I think about that night in the hallway a lot. My son calling out for someone who isn't even in our house every day, but who clearly feels like home. I used to think that was just a sweet moment. Now I understand it's your baby's brain doing exactly what it's built to do, reaching for every safe, steady adult it can find. You're expanding the circle of people your baby learns to trust. And that circle is one of the oldest, most quietly powerful forces in raising a healthy, secure kid. If this helped you see grandparents in a new light, consider subscribing. We release new videos every week about the hidden world inside your baby's mind. And if you found this useful, a like goes a long way in helping other parents find this channel.